Have you ever wondered if you're doing things that quietly push people away, but no one has the heart to tell you? It's a common fear, and for good reason. As we grow older, we tend to settle into certain habits. Some of these habits are comforting and wise, a natural result of a lifetime of experience. But others, well, others can become blind spots. You might truly believe you're just being yourself, a little more set in your ways perhaps, but the people around you can't help but notice. They may not say anything directly because they love and respect you, but these unseen habits can quietly impact how you're perceived by family, friends, and even strangers. In this video, we are going to uncover 12 ugly things you might be doing in old age that everyone notices, but no one tells you. The word ugly here isn't about physical appearance. It's about the kind of behaviors that can slowly wear down your dignity, isolate you from others, and subtly chip away at the grace you've earned over a lifetime. Each of these points is a chance for self-reflection, not to judge yourself harshly, but to gently hold up a mirror and ask a simple, powerful question. Is this still serving me? Or is it pushing people away? The good news is that most of these habits are completely fixable. The first step is simply becoming aware. By the end of this video, you will not only know what to look out for, but you'll also have a roadmap for how to carry yourself with more confidence, clarity, and grace in your later years. So stay with me until the end, because you may realize that just a few small changes could make a massive difference in how others experience you, and more importantly, how you experience yourself. Let's begin. The first habit to be aware of is neglecting personal hygiene. One of the first things people silently pick up on but rarely mention is when someone stops taking care of their hygiene. This isn't about major neglect. It's about the little things that accumulate over time. Think about wearing clothes that seem to have been on for days, hair that hasn't been brushed, fingernails that are just a little too long, or a faint odor that seems to linger in a room even after you've left. These small things may seem insignificant, but they send a powerful message. Hygiene isn't just about cleanliness. It's a reflection of how we carry ourselves. In our younger years, we often maintain these habits without a second thought. But as we age, energy can wane, routines can change, and some may start to feel a sense of what's the point. That shift is subtle, but everyone around you notices. They won't tell you outright because they don't want to embarrass you. Instead, they'll simply adjust their behavior. They might sit a little farther away, shorten their visits, or stop initiating hugs. What they're reacting to isn't you, but the message your self-care is sending. It tells them that you may have given up a little, that you don't value yourself as much as you once did. When you stop taking care of yourself, people unconsciously stop treating you with the same level of warmth and respect. A fresh shirt, clean hair, and trim nails aren't just about appearance. They tell the world that you are still here, you still care, and you still respect yourself and those around you. Next, we need to address speaking without a filter. As we age, something curious tends to happen. The inner voice that once said, "Maybe don't say that out loud," gets a little quieter and sometimes disappears completely. You might start speaking your mind more freely, perhaps even with a sense of pride, thinking you've earned the right to say whatever you want. And while that can feel liberating for you, the people around you often feel something very different: discomfort. There is a fine line between honesty and bluntness. If you find yourself saying things that cause people to pause, shift in their chairs, or avoid eye contact, it might be a sign that what's coming out isn't just the truth, it's harshness. You might have made remarks about someone's appearance, weight, relationships, or even how they're raising their kids, and then shrugged it off by saying, "I'm just being honest." But honesty without compassion often sounds a lot like criticism. The people on the receiving end rarely tell you how it makes them feel. They just start pulling back. You may notice they stop inviting you to certain gatherings or don't stay on the phone as long. They love you, but they are also trying to protect themselves from the sting of those small, careless remarks. This doesn't mean you need to censor every word, but it does mean pausing before you speak and asking, "Is this helpful? Is this kind?" The beauty of growing older is the wisdom you carry, and when that wisdom is wrapped in kindness, people lean in and listen. When it's coated in sarcasm or judgment, they start to tune out. The third habit is wearing clothes that don't fit anymore. There's a certain comfort in routines, and that includes wearing the same clothes you've had for years. While there is nothing wrong with consistency when it comes to clothing, what once looked classic can, over time, begin to feel careless. You might not notice it yourself, but the way your clothes fit, or rather don't fit, says a lot about your connection to the present moment. Pants that hang too loose, shirts that cling too tight, outdated styles from decades ago, or shoes that have long since lost their shape are not just fashion faux pas. They quietly send a message that you've stopped paying attention. While no one will ever come out and say it, they notice. This isn't about following trends or trying to dress like someone half your age. It's about showing the world that you still see yourself as someone worth looking after. When people see an older adult in clothing that fits well, looks cared for, and reflects a sense of self-respect, they feel instant admiration. It tells them that this person still shows up in the world not out of vanity, but out of dignity. Dressing in a way that reflects your current self, not your past, shows a powerful emotional presence and self-awareness. You can be comfortable and put together, relaxed and respectful of your appearance. Even something as simple as upgrading to a well-fitting pair of jeans or a shirt that brings out your natural tones can change the way people respond to you, not because of the fabric, but because of what it represents, that you are still engaged, still aware, and still proud of who you are today. Next, consider the habit of interrupting or dominating conversations. We all want to be heard, especially in our later years when we've lived through enough experiences to have a story for every occasion. But sometimes in that desire to share what we know or make our point clear, we forget to leave room for others. It can begin subtly. Someone mentions a topic you've dealt with before, and you jump in, offering a story or explaining what they should do. Before you know it, 10 minutes have passed, and no one else has spoken. What's tricky about this habit is that it usually doesn't come from a bad place. It's often rooted in a genuine desire to help. However, when you take up too much conversational space, you unintentionally silence the very people you care about, and they won't tell you that you're doing it. Instead, they'll start drifting away. They will stop calling as often, or they will keep conversations shorter. You'll feel the distance, but you might not understand where it came from. People want to feel seen and heard, not lectured. When every conversation begins to feel like a one-way street, it quietly wears down relationships, especially with younger adults or grandchildren who may already feel a little unsure of how to connect with a person from another generation. This isn't about saying less, it's about listening more. It's about letting there be pauses, asking more questions than you answer, and resisting the urge to jump in with advice unless it's asked for. The less you dominate the conversation, the more people seek your input. The more you listen, the more they trust you, and you become someone they want to talk to, not someone they have to brace themselves for. The fifth habit is complaining about kids these days. It often starts as a simple observation. You see a teenager glued to their phone and think about how different things were in your day. You hear someone in their 30s making a life decision you disagree with and think they have no idea how the real world works. And before you know it, these thoughts start slipping out in conversations with friends, family, and even strangers. When you constantly criticize younger generations, you send a powerful and often damaging message. It tells the people around you, especially your children and grandchildren, that you are not interested in understanding their world, and that you are stuck in a time that no longer exists. The uncomfortable truth is that every generation thinks the one coming up behind them is missing something. That is nothing new. But when that criticism becomes your default, people don't see you as wise. They see you as bitter. You might mean it as a joke or think you're just stating the obvious, but to those under 50, it often feels like a deep rejection. The result is that they stop opening up to you. They keep conversations light and avoid deeper topics because they are constantly bracing for judgment. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything younger people do, but it does mean choosing curiosity over criticism, asking instead of assuming. When you shift from saying kids today have it easy to asking, what is it like trying to find your way in this world, you open the door to genuine connection. Your value comes from bridging the past and present, not comparing them. Moving on to the sixth habit, ignoring modern etiquette. There is a type of social awareness that often goes unnoticed, until it's not there. These are the small behaviors that can have a big impact on how others perceive you, such as speaking loudly on your phone in public, standing too close in line, or playing a video without headphones in a waiting room. Decades ago, these things might not have been a big deal, as people were more tolerant of loud conversations or unexpected behaviors. But times have changed, expectations have shifted, and what used to be considered harmless now makes people quietly uncomfortable. You may not even realize you're doing it because no one will pull you aside and say, "Hey, could you turn that down?" or "Do you mind stepping back a little?" Instead, they'll give you a quick glance, avoid eye contact, or simply move to another seat. These little breaches of what people now consider common courtesy send a message. They say, "I'm not aware of how I affect others." And the truth is that people don't always give older adults the benefit of the doubt. They often assume you should know better, so they chalk it up to disregard, not a simple misunderstanding. This is not the legacy you want to leave, and fortunately, it's one of the easiest things to fix. Start by noticing how people around you behave in public spaces. Modern etiquette is not about being uptight. It's about being considerate. It shows that you are still tuned into the world, still engaged, and still aware of the impact you have on others. Next is the habit of oversharing medical problems. We have all heard the joke. Get a few older folks together, and the conversation turns into a contest of who has the worst knee, the highest blood pressure, or the most medications. While it may seem like harmless talk or even a way to relate, constantly bringing up your health issues can slowly wear down the energy of those around you. Everyone knows that getting older comes with its share of physical challenges. You don't have to pretend everything is perfect. However, when your conversations always circle back to what hurts, what the doctor said, or what's next on the surgery list, people start to feel like they're in a waiting room, not a relationship. For younger family members, these topics can feel overwhelming, and they may feel helpless hearing about things they can't fix. So instead of leaning in, they back away, not out of disrespect, but out of quiet exhaustion. You deserve empathy, and you deserve to be heard, but when that becomes the centerpiece of how you relate to others, it changes the dynamic from connection to complaint. Think about the people you enjoy being around. Chances are they are not the ones who list every ache and pill they take. They are the ones who focus on what is still good. You don't have to hide your struggles, but choose your audience, choose your timing, and most importantly, choose balance. Your life is still full of stories that aren't just medical charts, and people want to connect with you, not just your symptoms. Our eighth habit is being stubborn about outdated beliefs. One of the hardest things to notice in ourselves, especially as we age, is when our beliefs start turning into walls instead of windows. We hold on to ideas that once served us well, principles that shaped how we raised our families and made sense of the world. But over time, if we aren't careful, those beliefs can harden into absolutes that no longer reflect the world we are living in now. You might find yourself saying things like, "That's just how it is," or "People are too sensitive these days." And while you may feel confident in your views, what others often hear is something very different: resistance. The world has changed and is still changing at a rapid pace. Technology, culture, gender roles, mental health awareness, and the way we communicate are all evolving. When we dig our heels in and refuse to even consider another perspective, it doesn't come across as wisdom. It comes across as unwillingness. Younger generations notice this, and they will quietly label you as someone they can't talk to about certain things. This is a real loss. Staying open doesn't mean you abandon your values. It means you are willing to update your understanding without compromising who you are. Stubbornness often hides fear. Fear of losing relevance, of being left behind. But the truth is, your relevance doesn't come from how firmly you hold on to the past. It comes from how courageously you meet the present. Next up is the habit of walking or moving without awareness. As we age, our pace changes, and that is completely natural. But what often happens without us realizing it is that we become less aware of how our movements affect the people around us. You have probably seen it. Someone standing in the middle of a grocery aisle, cart sideways, completely blocking the way, or someone stopping suddenly in a busy walkway, lost in thought. Most of the time, these things happen without bad intent, but to the people around you, especially those in a hurry, It feels like friction. They will sigh, walk around you, and carry on. But these small moments add up in how they perceive you. They might start to see you as that person who is always in the way and silently decide to avoid situations where they would have to navigate public spaces with you. The issue isn't slowing down, it's awareness. You can move slowly and still be respectful of space. Being considerate in shared spaces sends a strong message that you are still paying attention and that you still care about how you impact others. This kind of awareness is a subtle form of grace. It tells people you are not just focused inward, but you are present, thoughtful, and kind. Our 10th habit is making jokes that don't age well. A good sense of humor is one of the best things you can carry into old age. It keeps you light and helps ease tension in even the hardest moments. But not all humor ages gracefully. Some jokes, especially the ones that got a laugh decades ago, can quietly push people away today. You might be joking the way you always have, a little sarcasm, a teasing remark, or a comment that plays off an old stereotype. You might laugh as you say it and follow up with a playful, "I'm just messing with you." But the world around you has changed. Today, people are far more sensitive to how words land. And when a joke feels out of step with values of inclusion and respect, it comes across as disconnected or, worse, disrespectful. Younger people will just laugh politely and then avoid getting too close. The less you have to say, the more people seek your input. This doesn't mean you have to walk on eggshells, but it does mean thinking twice. Ask yourself, is this funny because it's clever or because it puts someone else down? The best humor, especially in older age, is the kind that lifts people up and shows that you're not stuck in the past, but evolving right along with everyone else. The 11th habit is acting helpless when you're not. Getting older brings real challenges, and there are things that used to come easily that now require more time or more help. But there is a difference between needing help and defaulting to it when you don't have to. Over time, that difference becomes something people notice more than they will ever admit. Maybe you've gotten used to saying, "Can you just do it for me?" Or, "I don't know how any of this works. I'll just mess it up." At first, these requests seem innocent, but when they become habits for things you are still capable of doing, they can quietly wear on the people around you. Family members might start feeling like caretakers even when you are perfectly able. Friends may notice they are always the ones lifting, reaching, fixing, and organizing. Inside, they begin to feel resentment. This behavior is often subconscious and is not laziness. It's fear of doing it wrong, of looking silly, of not keeping up. But people admire effort more than perfection. Your children and grandchildren feel proud when you show that you are still in the game, that you still want to learn, move, and participate. When you ask for help only when you truly need it, people feel honored to step in because they know it comes from a place of honesty, not habit. Finally, we have the habit of pretending you're always right. We all like to feel we've earned our place at the table, especially after decades of life experience and lessons learned the hard way. It's understandable that many older adults feel like they have all the answers. But when the need to be right overshadows the need to connect, people stop listening. This might show up in small ways, like correcting someone's story at dinner, insisting your way is the only way that makes sense, or brushing off someone else's opinion by saying, "Trust me, I know better." At first, others may shrug it off, but over time, being around someone who always has to be right becomes exhausting. People start avoiding meaningful conversations and stop challenging you, not because you convince them, but because it's just easier to stay quiet. The irony is that many people don't do this to be arrogant. They do it to feel safe, to feel like they still have authority in a world that is changing quickly around them. But when being right becomes more important than being kind or curious, it backfires. Being wise doesn't mean having all the answers. It means knowing when to offer your perspective and when to let someone else explore theirs. When you stop trying to win every discussion, people actually start coming to you more, because your words carry a calm, thoughtful weight. What lasts is how you made people feel, and when you leave space for others to be heard and uplifted, your presence becomes something they truly treasure. Now that we have gone through these 12 behaviors, take a moment to reflect gently, without judgment. Which of these habits have quietly crept into your daily life? Which ones caught you by surprise? And which do you feel ready to shift, even if just a little? This video was never meant to shame or criticize. It was created to give you something most people don't: honest insight wrapped in care. The truth is, these behaviors don't make you a bad person. They're simply blind spots, things that settle in over time without us noticing. And once we do notice, that's when real strength shows. Not in pretending they don't exist, but in saying, I see it. I can do better. I still have the power to grow. That is what aging well is really about. It's not about clinging to the past or resisting change, but about stepping into each new day with self-awareness, grace, and the quiet strength of someone who still wants to connect, evolve, and be a source of warmth in other people's lives. So, as you move forward, keep these signs in mind, not as a checklist, but as gentle reminders to keep showing up in the world with dignity and the kind of character that leaves others feeling respected, comfortable, and inspired. Remember, it is never too late to shift how you move through the world. Small changes in how you speak, listen, dress, joke, or interact can completely transform how people experience you and how you experience your own place in the world.